Loach continues now with a documentary that includes interviews with regular collaborators from both sides of the camera. My name is Ken.
If he doesn't like something, he goes, you know, and that's it.
Everyone wants to work with him, and so they should, by the way.
To me, Ken's the man. I begged him for a job last night, but he doesn't hire people who've been on the telly too much, so unfortunately.
He's still very gentle, really. Gentle and funny.
Good filmmaking, good anything, should seem effortless, you know, like good piano playing should seem effortless.
Ken Loach began his career in 1964 making dramas for television. He made his feature debut, Poor Cow, in 1968, and since then has built up a formidable body of work, culminating in his latest, My Name is Joe, which marks him out as one of Britain's most passionate, compassionate, controversial and individual filmmakers.
I think he's the father of them all, really.
Well, I think everybody who starts out as in whatever medium, you have to carve your own path, you know. And I know the group I was with, worked in a way in reaction to what we saw around us. I mean, partly in reaction to theatrical studio work in television. So we'd try to get hold of a 16mm camera and go out on the streets and make the drama on the streets. Slightly in reaction too to the very good films that were made in the early 60s, you know, like Saturday Night and Sunday Morning and Sporting Life and those. That was often set in the north and what we felt was our kind of territory, but also to push that wheel on a cycle, you know, because often the performances would come up from London, you know, and we felt that they'd made a big advance, but we wanted to push on and push it further.
At the time that he was doing groundbreaking stuff at the BBC, Alan Clark arrived, Stephen Frears was there, Mike Lee was there. There were many directors and writers were suddenly being engaged and commissioned, and there was the Wednesday play, you know, 52, knock those out. You know, Play for Today, Play of the Month. The idea was to encourage and commission young writers, young directors, new talent, but he was the daddy of them all.
So it was those kind of things that we reacted against and said, tried to like cut our own path that would be, you know, was like in tune with the times, but was also, you know, like distinctive.
I met Ken Loach because I had a casting agency in Liverpool, and this guy phoned up and said he was looking for real people to take part in a movie. And I had no idea who Ken Loach was, obviously. And I got all these guys and some real nice faces, and this was for a movie called Riff Raff. And on the very last day, when he'd done it all, and he said, I know who I want and whatever, he said, how about you? Do you fancy having a little go at it? And I said, yeah, it's lovely. It's just as simple as that. He never sort of interviewed me or auditioned me and that. Just use me, you know.
I was working as a human rights lawyer out in Nicaragua. And when I came back, I had this idea that I would like to try and make a film about some of the things I'd seen and what had happened in Nicaragua. And so I prepared, you know, a rough outline, characters and a story. And then I wrote to Ken. And then one day, I was doing the dishes and the phone went and they said, my name is Ken Loach and yeah, you sent me this stuff. Let's meet up next time you're in London. So I got bussed into London and we had a chat and a cup of coffee. And we just talked really, and I talked. He was very interested just about, like, not so much the storyline I'd sent him, but what I'd seen in Nicaragua, what had happened, what my work was. And I suppose the good thing about, you know, being in Nicaragua that length of time, I just saw exactly what the United States was doing, how complex and how multifaceted was the way that the United States was trying to destroy Nicaragua, really. And so it became apparent then that at least we had kind of similar interests.
They're very alike. That's one thing. And They're very alike, they've got the same interests, their politics comes through in their films, they've got the same political beliefs. And plus, I think they're quite happy working with people that they know. Ken certainly is. That's why he comes back and works with actors that he knows, crew that he knows, you know. His cameraman, Barry Ackroyd, you know, he's worked with him a lot, you know. He likes to work with people he knows and trusts, you know.
I'd been an ex-building worker. I'd been imprisoned in 1972 for playing sort of a major role, if you will, in North Wales in the building strike, and ended up doing 2 years in jail. And so I knew all about the building sites and what happens and about the safety, or the lack of safety, should we say. And so it was a case of Ken asking me, what would you do and how would that happen and what would happen if someone had an accident, and it was that sort of interchange, you know.
Let's just be serious for a minute. If he fell off the scaffold tomorrow and lost an eye, he wouldn't get a balloon. If you fell and killed yourself, you wouldn't even pay for your body to be shipped back to Liverpool. At least if you're in the union, you get sickness pay, benefit pay.
This is true. We need to stick together, otherwise we have no security.
But finding the right person is crucial, because you've got to find someone who can connect to the part, but can also make the audience believe in them and make the audience care about them, and do it in a quite unself-conscious way, so that they're not consciously working out, you know, like most acting, where I think you can see the wheels going round. You know?
I just think he's an artist, and I think he's got more chance of moulding, for the want of a better word, people who are not used to the game, who will obey instructions and who don't know anything about 2 shots, 3 shots, 4 shots, close-ups, cuts, and I think it's just far easier for him, and whoever he picks, he gets the best out of them, doesn't he?
You can't write to order, you know. You can say, I'm going to make this interesting, I'm going to make this funny, I'm going to make this, you know, multi-complex, I'm going to make this with lots of dimensions. But, you know, you never know if you're going to achieve that. And it's actually in the writing of it you might touch something, and you know when it's rubbish, usually. And you certainly know sometimes when something kind of works. And a lot of the time then is discussing that with Ken. And there's also a very important role for someone who hardly ever gets mentioned, and he should get mentioned, and that's Roger Smith, the script editor. So every script needs a good Roger.
Throughout his career, Ken Loach has been labelled by the media as a purely political director, a left-wing dinosaur, and a generally angry man.
I'm fiercely angry, as you can see. Yeah, I think there has to be something to wind you up other than wanting to make a film, because people don't want to write because they want to hold a pen in their hand. They want to write because there's something in their minds that they want to express, and in films that's always a collaborative indignation or interest or care or whatever that springs from, and that's why it's an easier form than anything else, because you're doing it with someone.
But in a strange sort of way, like the actual narrative, you know, you can have ideas and like inclinations, and you follow your instinct. But at the end of the day, I think it's in the writing of it that you kind of discover it, you know. And the great thing about Ken gives you space to do that.
I've got a living to earn, ain't I?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, part of the impulse is to like make a report from the front line, as it were. So, I mean, films can't help but be embedded in their time, both in their preoccupations and in just the texture, the images and all that. So inevitably, if you've been lucky enough to be able to have a go over a long period, then there should be a window on those times. Whether they're accurate or not, I don't know. Everybody would have an opinion. That you just try and do as best you can.
Everything he's done, everything, without exception, has had a message and has either caused a furore, or there's been debates about it and one thing and another. Kathy come home, everything he does is meaningful, and I think that's a wonderful testament to him. You know, there's no murders, there's no explosions, and there's no helicopters diving in and shooting. They're just stories and performances and a message, and I think that's his contribution to, dare I say it, I think that's his contribution to society and the left wing.
I'd rather be a dinosaur than be some pop culture moron, you know. I think the fact that he stuck to his principles is, you know, anyone who accuses him of being a dinosaur is a moron.
I mean, we've always felt it's very important that that fiction is driven by the characters and their, you know, what compels them to act in a certain way.
What do you think, lad?
That's not bad.
Home sweet home.
Looks all right outside, doesn't it?
Boot it, lad, boot it.
They relate to the context they're in. They're formed by it, you know, that's, in a way, you can't but be that. It's kind of truism, you know, but one which I think sometimes fiction or films ignore, because characters are seen somewhere in a vacuum, you know. Whereas I think it's absolutely interrelated to the economic circumstances you live in, whether you're part of a society from which you're alienated, or whether you're part of it, a contributing part of it.
You know, in other words, that there's something underneath that's very, very important to you. You know, I suppose for a better, I mean, I don't mean party politics, but the politics underneath it. You know, the values that you're trying to, you know, communicate. You know, I feel like we've got lots in common there, really.
Because we both share a kind of curious interest in unsuccessful football teams, so that was quite good.
And in Ken's case, his team is non-league Bath City, where his latest film, My Name is Joe, was recently screened for the benefit of, well, Bath City.
Ken's the director of Bath Football Club, and they're involved in the premiere tonight, and all the footballers are coming along and their wives, and they're all invited, and I think they're putting on drinks and nibbles for us as well. And they made me wear the strip. Very nice.
I started coming to watch Bath City when we moved to Bath in '74, and I tried to resist coming for a long time, because, you know, when you start supporting a club, it really drains your emotions, doesn't it? It's a whole alternative life. So I came along intermittently for a few seasons, and then the lure got too strong, and I got a season ticket a few years ago. And then last year, there was a danger that the club would sell the ground. So that seemed really bad news, because if you sell the ground, the club ceases to exist, really. So a group of supporters got together, of which I was one, and spoke to the man who owns the majority of the shares and said, let us be the directors. And that's what happened.
Keep your shape all the time, and keep that passing game going, right? But you've got to start right, man. Clock this mob. We're on the same strip as us. Well, no. Right. You're gonna get referee, man. How come nobody taught us this? Referee.
And it's the greatest fun you could possibly imagine. It beats filming. I mean, it's fantastic.
I've been Franz Beckenbauer for years, by the way.
If you're Franz Beckenbauer, I'm a tooth fairy. Just get a strip off, Franz.
Clever man, eh? Your tattoo, by
And you'd made it after My Name is Joe, you'd made a documentary about Bath City. I just thought he was a fan. Ken's such a quiet guy, he doesn't give much away, you know. I just found out today he was the director.
Yes, a director he is. But just as he's probably unlike any other football director, when it comes to his day job, Ken's in a league of his own.
He's the most undirected director I've ever worked with. There's no sort of action and cameras roll, and he's the quietest guy in the world, and he just says okay and then fine, and that's it.
We were never ever given the script. We found out what was happening day to day. The day before you were to do whatever you were to do that day, you got this wee brown envelope with a couple of sheets of paper in it, and that was the wee part of script that you were to do the next day. Because
some people work with the script and some don't, and then he changes things right on the last minute, and so you're always on your toes and the adrenaline's going all the time, and sometimes the scene seems to go on for about 2 days.
He's shrewd enough to realise it doesn't suit every actor, but he does that with lots of actors. And I think it gives a freshness, because they're kind of living that script, you know, in sequence. And Louise there's bits in the script where I think she's just brought, I mean, she's getting it and she's living it, and she responds instinctively to it. I think that's why you get some amazing performances, you know, like Peter, you know, Peter Millen, or Louise, or, you know, Chrissy Rock.
You look sad. Well, maybe I've got lots to be sad about. You never know, do you, George?
You have worries?
God, we all have worries.
So we had no idea what was going to happen. Absolutely no idea. apart from when wardrobe said to all the guys, do you have a black suit and a black tie? So we thought, am I going to be killed?
Yeah. What he does is he sets an atmosphere where he collaborates with everyone, you know. He gives me confidence to write, but then with the actors, you know, whether they're professional, somebody like Peter who's won Best Actor in Cannes, or whether it's, you know, somebody from a drug rehabilitation project who's acting for the first time, he treats them with respect and gives them confidence to be themselves, and that's when you get the best out of people. And that's not just true of film, it's true of life, isn't it?
You actually forget you're in a movie altogether. And what was really good for me about Riff Raff is it was a rail building site, and the production team and everyone and all of the rail building workers and ourselves, we all ate in the same little room on the same sort of makeshift tables, and the office, the production office, was actually a site hut, and it was just like a building site, and that was it.
But we'd no idea what was happening, you know, which was great way to work, because it was like living it. It was like real life, just living it, you know, from day to day. And like when me and Peter would leave each other the night before, the feelings that we left each other with, you know, work-wise, were fresh in our minds the next day, and great way to work, yeah.
I mean, Peter contributed a great deal to it. I mean, the script is written, you know, very tightly written, but there's scope for Peter to weave in and out of that.
You'll live off the moment. You know, if something unexpected happens, you'll catch it, you know? And I can see that. I mean, some of the moments I have to, it's not very good for a writer to admit this, but oftentimes, you know, the moments that I love best are the bits where he's caught that, you know, because he's given the actors, you know, the chance to express themselves.
Well, he told me a pack of lies, see? He said to me, you're having a bath and you're in this flat is £1 million and he said, you hear a noise and you just keep quiet because you don't want anyone to know you're in the bath, and that was it. And so I'm having a bath and I hear a noise, and then he had the three Arab ladies coming past, and he must have just said to them, have a look around the flat and go in there. So when they came into it, I didn't have a clue, and nor did they, by the way. It must have been a terrible shock for them seeing, must have been like looking at one of the gladiators, wasn't it?
Ken keeps it very low-key so that the actors aren't distracted, and he doesn't watch you, he just listens. He closes his eyes and listens. I noticed him in a corner of a room one day, you know, sort of like this, and it was the first time that I'd noticed that that's the way he worked, and I thought, oh God, he hates what I'm doing, you know. I thought he was going, oh, what am I going to do with her, you know.
When you watch a film, you know, and it doesn't work, it just jumps out at you. But you look at like people who are only in that, you know, maybe doing scenes for maybe 20 or 30 seconds, you know, just absolutely fantastic little moments, because he's treated them with respect and given them confidence as well.
He particularly loves working with comedians, and when we were doing Rain and Stones, he cast a guy called Jackie Hamilton from Liverpool, who's probably the biggest name in Liverpool on the non-professional scene, i.e. the Tom O'Connor or Ken Dodd scene. This guy is like the comics comic. All the local guys go to see this guy. And Jackie's got a bit of a reputation, you know. And on the day of the shoot, Jackie walked in through the door about 9 o'clock in the morning, and Ken said to me, my God, he said, look at the makeup and the wardrobe. Haven't they done a wonderful job on Jackie? I said, he hasn't been yet, he's only just turned up. You know?
Listen, I must tell you a quick gag.
He's quite devious, you see, because we had to do that scene 3 or 4 times for different reasons, like traffic moving or someone. He'd just say, okay, another joke, and so you have to tell a different joke each time you have a different take. And but then I think that's good. I mean, it keeps you on your toes, and it keeps those who are listening on the toes, and it, you know, it adds to the spontaneity, doesn't it? Did you hear about the kid from Liverpool in the bloody wheelchair he took to Lewis? He got him to the water's edge and he couldn't get in because his legs was twisted, so they had to hire a little crane and pick him and the wheelchair up, hold it over the water and submerge him. And when he come out, they all had a look at his legs, and his legs were still twisted, but the wheelchair had 2 new tyres on it. No, he's the worst joke teller in the world, but he's the best listener.
If he doesn't like something, he goes, you know, and that's it. He doesn't shout at you or anything. It's just, well, let's try it this way. No, he's the same man everywhere he is, yeah.
I've never seen him lose his temper. He never raises his voice. And the reason being is he says to you, when you do a scene, and you do it again and again, you're not doing anything wrong, you're just doing it different. And he's not sure which way he wants you to do it, so do them all. And then he'll take the best of them. And it's a lovely way to work because there's no pressure.
He films it chronologically as well, so you're not doing a scene and then going back to it 16 days later, you know. It's always, you know, fresh in your mind and stuff. Do you want a cup of tea? Do you want
No, I'm fine.
And day one, just my wee bit of script and go for it, you know, and if it's wrong, it's wrong, if it's right, it's right, you know.
Because I think it's that way you get a feeling of solidarity, really. And one thing you want from the audience is a feeling of they're me, I'm them, you know. That's where we have a collective responsibility. We're in the same world. And I think a problem with sort of a number of films is that just as people are alienated from the society they're living in, the characters in the film are alienated from the audience. And I think that's a pity, and it's to do with the kind of writing, it's to do with the kind of shooting which puts people at arm's length, you know. And it comes down to the choice of lenses, I believe.
So everyone seems happy, but in an age when the majority of box office hits are based largely on special effects and style over content, it's often said Loach's films stand out because they have no style.
Because you're a lazy bugger, that's why.
But the thing about style, I think, is that it's the old adage that style reflects content. It isn't something stuck on you like a new suit. I mean, it must actually come from what are we trying to express and how can we best express it. I did an interview the other day for a Spanish television company, and I noticed that after, unfortunately I didn't notice till after, the camera was on at an angle. And I said, why are you putting the camera at an angle? And he said, well, it's the style of the programme. But so I said, does it make what I say more interesting, or is it, you know? Well, no. I mean, it's probably pretty boring anyway. But no, it doesn't do that. It's just the style, and it's a kind of voguish kind of daftness, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think his instinct's brilliant. I mean, I think he's got a great, you know, storytelling instinct. And what is also very important is he just says, well, is this truthful to the characters we've set up, you know? And he says, would they really do that? What would happen here? It's like a good football team, you know? They make the goals, you know? You give yourself a chance to get something beautiful at the end of the day. See, there they are, the football analogy works.
Well, it is. I mean, there are the elements of drama there. I mean, drama is based on conflict, and football is conflict for 90 minutes. The advantage football has is you don't know what's going to happen at the end, whereas most films you can foresee it from the second reel. The whole structure of a football club is like a film, in the sense you've got the players who are the cast, you've got the managers, the director, you've got the chairman who's like the producer. It's very similar, and the business of motivating people and getting them to the pitch that they will actually do their absolute best for the moment you're either filming or playing, that's very similar. I mean, it hadn't occurred to me till I got involved here, but it's very comparable.
Despite the fact that Loach's films generally deal with their subjects from a British point of view, his films and reputation have travelled around the world.
I've just come back from Turkey, and I picked this award up. Unfortunately, it's for Ken Loach. I asked him to put a different name on it, but they couldn't be bribed. I went to Poland because they were doing like a little season of Ken's movies, and we went to one cinema that was showing Riff Raff, and the foyer of the cinema was done out as a building site, and they had bricks and breeze blocks and planks and water drums. They even had a mixer going in, and honestly, they just put like Ken Loach up there, and it's a full house.
There is a whole wide tradition of cinema in the rest of the world, particularly what we can relate to the European cinema, and I think it's, if you see yourself part of that tradition, then it's a much more productive way to think of cinema.
They had a little cinema there in Berlin, just on the outskirts, and they showed Land and Freedom, and that was on for 14 weeks. It ran full houses for 14 weeks.
In a way, we shouldn't give up on cinema and the ideas of cinema, because it's been, largely taken over by one form of exploitation film, or 2 or 3 forms of exploitation films. I mean, it's still a very exciting medium. And in a way, the political challenge in cinema is to recapture the cinema for a really broad spread of films, you know, like the equivalent of a library in books.
So, after being at the filmmaking game for over 30 years, presumably Ken must find it all a bit of a breeze by now.
Get in here! Boys!
No, I have been at it, yes, for quite a time. And I think you get more apprehensive each time. If you haven't stood behind the camera for a year, which I haven't now, nearly a year, you do start to panic that you'll forget what to say. I think you get very apprehensive, both about, you know, the substance of the idea that you've got. You know, is it good? Does it hold water? Is it true? Will people be interested? Is it worth saying? Is it worth all that? And you also get anxious about winding yourself up enough to have that charge of energy to see a film through.
When he finally gets this award, I just want him to phone up and make sure it is for him and not for me. I think they have made a mistake. But also, when he gets his knighthood, I want him to invite me to the palace with him.
I don't know. My God almighty.
Topless darts, you know? What do you want, topless darts? Do you want Ken Loach movie? I made my choice, but I know there's some people would prefer the other. Bless him, I think he should stick around.
I hope I haven't mellowed at all, really, because I think the energy you need to drive a film through is doesn't come with being mellow. You know, it comes with being, say, kind of wound up. You know, and if you're not wound up, you might as well get asleep.
July.